So, welcome back to the Rich Mind Podcast. And Greg and I were just we were having a discussion before I hit record here today about this trap that most of us. I always hate to use the word always, all, right? Because there's some people that might not fall into this trap, but I think a lot of us do. And that trap is the comparison trap. When we're leading our lives, what we truly desire, which is what we talked about on the past episode, and we start going down this path of personal development, right? We're trying to achieve more. We're trying to become more. A trap that we can fall into is comparing ourselves to other people and other things. And when we do that, we start to then almost like put ourselves down. Like, how can I ever achieve X? Or how can I ever do this or do that? And when you do that, when you fall into that trap, it's going to quickly, and it could very easily keep you, number one, from even starting, right? You might even start, your self-doubt might kick in right away and keep you from even getting started. Or it can quickly, as you start moving through the phases of the determination and the discipline and start having these struggles, it'll easily make you want to shut it down, make you want to quit. That's been my tendency. I mean, I've started and stopped so many different things. And a lot of times it's because I'm comparing myself to someone else, right? Comparing myself to what I want to be and not realizing that that's a trap. And that's the discussion we want to have here today. So, Greg, you said that you had, before we hit record, several things on this topic. Was excited to jump in. Yeah. Give me some ideas of some of the comparison traps that you've fallen in, or even some things that we can help the listeners with here today.
Yeah, I think I have a lot of information on this is because I am definitely in the comparison trap, or I have been a lot. So I've listened to a lot of podcasts, read a lot of books about this, and really just internalized this and asked myself, why do I fall in this trap? How do I control it? The one thing that just came to mind is I should say, from my experience.
Isn't that hard, right? I do that too. It's like, I get it. But yeah, you're right. I would say we as well.
Yeah. So I guess as I and we probably as a collective, we always compare ourselves to people above us, right? We never compare ourselves to people that are just starting out, because why would we, right? But they're comparing themselves to us, even if we're not maybe at 100% where they want to be. So that's like the first part of the trap is you're always comparing up, and you're always comparing to people that have maybe been doing it longer. Like we talked about on the previous episode, they have probably been committed for a lot longer. They're not just interested. So I think, and we'll get into some strategies, for you guys to implement at maybe the end of this podcast, but I really wanted to leave it there because I don't want to jump ahead too much. But that was my thought on this: is we're always comparing up to people, and it's just not fair to us. And like you said, it just creates a lot of mental strife and anxiety, and that's not what we want, right? That's the opposite of what we want.
The exact opposite of what we're trying to achieve. So folks, that when you're using the comparison trap, when you're comparing yourself to others, you can use other people's goals or other people's achievements as like you can aspire to have those things or to become those things. It's almost like it's proof that it's real, proof that it can become true, right? So whether it's a business, whether it's a money number, whether it's a big, a family situation or a relationship, you can see things as inspiration. You can be inspired to want to have those things come true in your own life. But when you start, once again, putting where you are, your starting point, or somewhere in the middle, right? Doesn't have to exactly be on square one, right? But anywhere within that process, if you're not quite to where that other person is, it's not a equal comparison, because that person has more than likely gone through the challenges, gone through the discipline, gone through whatever it takes to achieve that destination, which is kind of how this refers back to the past episode as well. One thing I heard in my journey that really, it kind of put like a visual to it, right? And so I want to share that with you right now, is that a lot of times when we're in this comparison trap, we are comparing our backup stage, right? So our life, right? Our life, the chaos, the stuff, all the junk that's going on, the chatter in our minds, all the different things. We're comparing that to someone's front of stage. So think of it like social media. It's like you see somebody on social media, they look like they have it all. They're always smiling. The picture's always great. The lighting's always right. They don't fumble with their words like I do all the time. All of those things. So that's their front of stage. But what you're not seeing is their back of stage. And from my experience, having gone out and met people from all over the world, different parts of the country here, even, right? Different, as far as their income levels and net worths. And I've met all of them, right? Anywhere from no net worth to 8-figure folks, right? And everything in between. They all have back of stage things that they don't necessarily want to show you, don't want to share with you. So like that there again, that comparison trap is you're comparing all of your stuff, right? Good, bad, and ugly with their front of stage, which always looks right because they just make sure that it always looks good. But if you get to peek behind the curtain to their back of stage, I would bet from my experiences that they're struggling with the same things you are, maybe just in a different way because of their journey, right? They might have achieved more, or they might have had some different things happen for them in a different way that have gotten them to where they are, but they've gone through the same struggles, or they're even struggling with the same things you are even today. So when I heard that for the first time, right, when you're comparing your back of stage to someone else's front of stage, once again, that's where you're setting yourself up for a trap, to be disappointed, to shut down when you need to just keep moving, keep going. Use this desire that you have, this deep burning desire that you have in your heart, to keep moving through the hard parts. Understand that you can be, do, and have anything you desire. Use it for inspiration, but don't use it as a guidepost that, oh man, I've got to have this. And because I don't, I must not be good enough. I should probably just shut it down. All those negative things that go on in your mind when you fall into this trap. So yeah, I'm excited about these things, these tips, these ideas. Anything else to share? I know you've got a ton to go on with this topic. Anything else, Greg?
Well, I think the one thing you mentioned kind of stole my thunder a little bit, which is fine.
I did? I didn't even mean to. We didn't compare notes.
We didn't. So that happens and it's all good.
Yeah.
So yeah, you kind of mentioned the positive side of comparison, which I know we're kind of diving into a lot of the negative side, and we'll give you some strategies to overcome that. But yeah, you mentioned the inspiration and motivation, right? Just knowing and acknowledging that comparison can sometimes be like a source of inspiration, right? As long as you're not comparing yourself and judging yourself at the same time for you're not at that level, right? So like you said, if somebody owns a business, or they're losing weight, or whatever the issue is, doesn't even matter. If you can look at them and say, well, hey, Randy started a podcast 2 years ago. If Randy could do it, I can probably do it. And
I love it.
And I'm not putting any, negative on that. Like, you took the time, you developed the skills, but I'm saying it's, if somebody else can do it, you as a human, you can do it too. It's just, you need the desire, you need to be committed, like we talked about, and you need to have the tools and understand how to do it. And if you really want to do it, you can do it. Just like anything, earning $1 million, getting 6-pack abs. There's people out there that are doing this right now. So yeah, so it's not like you can't do it, and it should be inspiration and motivation, knowing that, millions of people have lost, X amount of weight or set up a business. So yeah, so using that as a positive side of comparison, and really diving into those comparisons as learning opportunities, right? And saying, how can I do what Randy's doing? Maybe Randy can help me do what he's doing to help me. You know what I mean? So there's the positive side of it too. So I wanted to point that out, but you touched on that. I just wanted to drive that point home a little bit.
I stole your thunder, and I apologize, because you're right. Yeah, I didn't want to. Yeah, we didn't compare notes, but yeah, that was what was coming to me in the moment. So I apologize for stepping on your toes there a little bit. So one big problem I see then too, at the very beginning stages, right? So you'll come up with this desire. You'll have this burning desire. You've made a dedicated decision. You're ready to move forward. But one issue I see when you fall into this comparison trap, you'll start thinking to yourself, but I don't know how to do that. How does that person do that? And the outcome, I don't really care what it is. Like you said, it could be making money online. It can be starting a podcast. It could be losing all kinds of weight. It could be whatever. It doesn't matter. But you'll fall into this trap again of realizing or saying to yourself, I don't know how to do that. And because of that, I'm not even going to get started. That's unfortunate. There are so many ideas that are coming to you daily. There are so many things, desires that are coming to you that are trying to get and work themselves through you, right? You need to put the action in. You need to put them into action so that way you can get the result. But if you fall into the trap thinking, well, how in the world am I going to, let's say you want to be a professional speaker. Let's say you want to go speak on stages. It's like, but I don't know how to do that. And the next thing out of that question then is, okay, or that statement is like, no, nothing, right? You do nothing with it instead of asking it like an inspired question. Well, how do I do that? Who can I get around? What associations do I need to find? That's the beauty of the internet, right? You can find people from all over the world that are talking about whatever subject you want to learn about. So use it as inspiration. Use it as get in the driver's seat, take control of this chatter that's going on in your mind, telling you can't, telling you shouldn't. You've made this dedicated decision. You're going to move forward. So who do I need to become in that process? And stop comparing yourself in a negative standpoint, holding yourself back to bridge that gap, right? It's having the faith that you can continue to move forward, right? Greg made the comment, and I don't remember which episode it was. It was recently, though. It was a great statement, right? When you're traveling down the road and you have a hill or something like that, you can't see over the hill. It's not that you stop the car. You don't stop the car when you can't see the miles in front of you. You have a knowing within that the road's going to continue, or it's going to weave, or it's going to whatever, right? The point that I'm trying to make, though, is that once you make this dedicated decision, once you start to move forward, don't use that comparison trap keep you from moving forward when you don't know how. None of us know how to do any of it until we get started. And that's where another thing, let me just put this out there. Reach out to us, Greg and I both at info@richmind.co. Reach out to us. If there are things that you hear on the podcast, it's like, man, I wish I could learn more about that. It sounds like they've got that dialed in, or maybe you just need some inspiration. Reach out to us. If we can help you through that process, get onto the path of beyond I don't know what to do, which means so I just won't even get started. You can't let that happen. You can't let that happen anymore after today's episode, which is why I'm just so passionate about this type of topic. Anyways, sorry to steal your thunder on that. Hopefully I didn't steal your thunder on that part of it there, Greg. No. Did I do good that time?
No, all good. Yeah. And I agree. Like the how, like we talked about, it's everything that we want to achieve is out. It's out there. It's on the internet. Somebody has achieved it. You just have to seek out that information, seek out that relationship with that person who is successful. Because we all know the negative effects of comparison is, it's going to knock down your self-esteem when you're saying, well, Randy's up here and I'm down here. What is that going to do for my self-esteem? Well, it's not going to do anything positive, right? And it's going to make me lose focus. And like you said, it's going to make me stop the car when we're on that journey. And we're just going to basically give up and feel sorry for ourselves and kind of play the victim. And that's not what we want for you guys. And it's not what we want for ourselves, speaking about this topic.
Not at all. Not at all. There are so many things that need to be done. I can't do them all. Greg can't do them all, but you need to do them. So you're getting inspirations. You're getting ideas. You need to launch a podcast. You need to write your book. You need to start the business. You need to develop your family. You need to develop your relationships. There's so many different areas. Now, not all of them. I'm not saying you need to do all of them. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm trying to point out, though, is that there are so many different areas within your own life that as long as you don't fall into that comparison trap and start thinking out that, so-and-so is better than me or has done better than me, how in the world am I ever going to get there? How in the world can I bridge that gap? Where do I even get started? And if you get stuck in that moment within that trap, that's what I'm trying to encourage you with here today, is that the world needs you. The world needs your voice. The world needs your ideas. And you've got to have the confidence within yourself. Is there going to be challenging days? 100%. Is there going to be some times that you need to do things that you don't necessarily want to do? 100%. That's called discipline. That's called determination. We covered that on the last episode. But if you just keep moving forward and understand that we all have our own mess. Like I said, when you're comparing your entire stage, front and back, with somebody else's front, you don't realize that they've got similar messes, if not bigger messes. People with big businesses, people with big responsibilities, they've got big messes. They just might not show it up front, right? You're not going to hear about it, on social media or even when you're talking to them in person. But they've got a lot of things going on, a lot of plates they're juggling. So don't compare yourself if you're not dealing with those same situations, and realize that you can still achieve that if that's what your desire is. You can do it. I've been proof of it, meaning once I've realized this for myself, I've made that dedicated decision and I've kept moving forward, not allowing the comparison, because I do that sometimes, right? I catch myself, once again, I've talked about this, and I'll catch myself almost in real time when I get triggered. That's usually what happens is I'm comparing myself to someone else that is telling me, why aren't I as successful as this person? Why aren't I achieving whatever result that I'm thinking that I should have? I'll get triggered. And when I get triggered, then it used to send me down a rabbit trail of negativity, which would keep me from moving forward or even getting started at all. But I've learned to, my wife and I were joking about it yesterday. One thing that she's helped me with a ton is that I put these people in a box, in a mental box. And as stupid as that sounds, that helped me. So if this person, or there's other people that are out there that are triggering me with different thoughts, comparison thoughts, I mentally take them and I stick them in a little box, and I take that box and I stick it on the shelf somewhere and I cover it up. So it's just a mental exercise that kind of allows me then to take back control for myself. It's like I'm taking my attention away from them and bringing it back towards the things that I can control, which is me, which is my thoughts, which are my actions in this moment. Anyways, I kind of went off on a long tangent there. Wanted to share that idea with the box. It just came to me as I was speaking, because that was something that I've worked on, and that's helped me a lot when I get triggered to get control of it faster. Is I just have that mental exercise of putting that person or putting that comparison in this little mental box that I have, and I put them on the shelf. I've got several people on the shelf. Can you imagine that, Greg? People up on the shelf, and I just leave them there. I cover them up. And then sometimes Stacy, my wife, says, did those people come back out of the box? Because I'll get triggered again. I'm like, yeah. She goes, well, then put them back in the box.
Nice.
I'm like, okay. And so anyways, it's like I said, as silly as that might sound, that has been what's worked for me. So anyways, any thoughts on that? You're kind of looking at me like I'm crazy.
No,
I was trying to think of a way to describe that that would make sense. Any thoughts on that at all?
No, honestly, I think that's a really good strategy, and one that I wouldn't have thought of. But if it works, like we talk about on this podcast, right? If it works for you, great, keep doing it. And I'm glad you shared that, because I'm sure it's going to work for somebody else who's listening. And if they try it and it works, great. And if it doesn't, then that's fine too. You can find another strategy that is going to help you overcome this. But no, that's a great personal example, and one that I would have never had thought. So thank you.
Yeah, there you go, Greg. There'll be something for you to work on this afternoon or that later on this week when something triggers you or you have a thought. Yeah, you kind of just take them up. You just kind of pack them up like a snowball and you just stick them in this little tiny box. This is what I do. So I'm literally doing this in real life in my mind, right? Talking to you right now. You package them up like a snowball. You get a real small and compact. You stick them in this little box. I have a watch box, or a box that it spins my watch. Anyway, so it keeps my watches wound, or it keeps one of my watches wound. And so I stick them in that box. And so then I watch them go in circles and spinning and spinning and spinning. And then I stick them up on the shelf.
That's cool.
That's way too much information, folks. I apologize for that. If you've turned off the episode at this point, I apologize. We'll try to get into more solid content here. But yeah, that's been an example for me, of what I really try to do in real time when I'm catching someone or something that's triggering me, when I'm in that comparison trap. That's something that I've done, and it's really helped me. So yeah, I appreciate you letting me share.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, a few other strategies that I've kind of used or I'm aware of is, I think the obvious one is limit social media exposure, or, that kind of thing, depending on if it triggers you or not, right? So some people, you can load up their feed with certain types of people that are going to inspire them rather than have that comparison factor. Other people are okay with, it's really personal, right? That one's going to be, I know I did that though. I took out a lot of people that were my first filter was, if they're like negative on social media, I just don't want to even have that, hitting my eyes and my brain. And I'm not on social media very much anyway, but either way, if you're on social media, that's one thing that you can do. Also, I know we talked about this last episode too, but remember that you're on your own journey, right? So comparing yourself to anybody really they're on their own journey. They have their own desires and wants and challenges and everything, right? So you're never going to be apples to apples comparison with anybody, because, I bring different skill sets to the table than Randy does. So even for us to compare, how are we as podcasters and that kind of thing, we're just different. We have different personalities, different deliveries. So really remember that too, it is a personal journey. So comparison is really, it's not a fair game for anybody right out of the gate.
No, not at all. So the thought that's coming to my mind as you're saying that is, I think that's where I've had the hardest time growing up was through the school system. Is I wasn't, my brain, my mind, the way I think, the way I am did not fit into that system. Meaning, it, the whole regurgitating just information and memorizing and reading, just all that stuff. From when I was first going to school at 5 all the way through till I dropped out of college twice. I'm not good in that environment, which led me then to compare myself, right? I would compare myself. Well, how can I be successful? For the longest time, this is what I thought. How can I become successful in business if I don't have this business degree? That was a belief that I had for the longest time because that's what I was told. That's what you're told out. Okay. That's what I heard. I'm not going to say what other people are hearing, but that's what I kept hearing. That was part of the beliefs and the stories that I kept telling myself. And because of that, I was comparing myself to other people that had that skill set. For example, even within my own family, my wife and my daughters, and even my son, they're like rocket scientists compared to me. I mean, they're like, my daughter picked up a book. It was probably an inch thick, if not more, just the other day. And it was like within a few hours, she was like almost done. I'm like, did you even read it? I mean, what are you doing? Are you skimming it? How are you doing that? It's because my mind doesn't work like that. I just can't even comprehend. So I was even comparing myself to her in that moment, that if I was trying to achieve that same result, I would struggle. And because of that, a lot of times I don't pick up a book because I do that comparison of myself. I don't think that because I don't read as well as someone else, that I can't pick up a book and sit down and just enjoy at my pace, right? And so that's where this trap can really get yourself really in a bad spot when you really feel like you can't achieve whatever result, whatever desire that you're trying to achieve. And it gets you thinking about, and you're comparing, and you're thinking that you can't or that you shouldn't. And the reason why is because of the stories and the beliefs that you've been fed and the things that you keep telling yourself over and over and over that they aren't true. I still love that saying. You said it. I was listening to a previous episode that we had the other day, and I was loving it again, that just because it's a belief doesn't make it true. You brought that one to the podcast, Greg, and that was a great, great saying. I love that. So just challenge those thoughts, challenge those beliefs. Recognize when you are comparing yourself to other people. Like you said at the very beginning, Greg, you talked about comparing up. Very seldom do we either compare side to side or compare, below us, right? We're always thinking that we have to be like someone else at a status that it's hard to compare with, even getting to that far, getting to that point. And it's really going to set yourself up for, a world of hurt. You've said that multiple times before, right? Too. It's like you're setting yourself up for failure before you even get started. And that's exactly what we don't want. So any other strategies? You'd mentioned that you might have a couple other things. Any other thoughts about this comparison trap?
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing we talked about is practicing gratitude. I'm a big fan of this. I started doing this probably a couple months ago. But yeah, just focusing on your own achievements and really practicing gratitude for what you've accomplished thus far. It's just powerful, and it's just going to take away that comparison because you're really like selfishly focusing on, hey, what have I done great in life? What have I done great in the past year? And it could be a small thing. It doesn't have to be a huge accomplishment, because we all have small accomplishments, medium-sized ones, and then bigger ones, but we're probably going to have the smaller ones occur more often, right? So focus on those little, those like micro successes, right? So that's one thing that I would say. And kind of just going back to comparing yourself to somebody else, if you are going to compare yourself for inspiration and motivation, compare yourself to somebody that is maybe 1 or 2 steps ahead of you, not 30 steps ahead of you. Like a Warren Buffett is like probably 1,000,000 steps ahead of me, right? Like there's no reason why I should compare myself to Warren Buffett, because I have no desire to be that powerful and famous and maybe that successful, because like you said, when you have a lot of money and you own businesses, a lot of problems come with that. A lot of time comes with that. And time is not something that I want to give away. I want to take it back. So anyway, comparing myself to Warren Buffett is just not a fair comparison. But if I compare myself to somebody who is 1 step ahead of me, I could really take that and say, all right, well, I'm so close to that person. Let me reach out to him or her. Maybe they can help me or give me some ideas. And then all of a sudden in 30 days or a year, it doesn't matter, I'm at that next level. And then you look at the next level, right? So you're just kind of leveling up one at a time. It's like playing a video game. You can't go from level 1 to level 10.
Right.
You go 1 to 2 to 3. So that's just the way it is with this as well. And that's the visual that I have in my head anyway.
Love it. Yeah. So as soon as you said that, I'm thinking like a staircase, right? It's a stair step. You reach a level and then you plateau maybe a little bit and then you strive to go for the next level, right? It's just one step at a time. It's not, you might be able to skip a level or two in between, right? Depending on your growth and depending on your people that you brought into your influence, right? Maybe they can help you, I don't want to say cheat or anything, but shortcuts maybe, right? Because there's always shortcuts. But at the same time, yeah, it's just one level at a time. I love that. And then, yeah, I just want to reiterate that something you said there too, as far as celebrate the small wins. They don't have to be big wins, as I've mentioned several times with the podcast, right? As I keep going, I just need to even do it better, right? I need to celebrate the things that I'm accomplishing. I love the fact that bringing Greg on here as a co-host makes this so much it's so enjoyable to have these conversations back and forth. I'm hoping you're enjoying them as well out there as a listener. And we definitely appreciate you being here if you've stayed with us so far in this episode, even today. So just try to stop falling into this comparison trap. And just, if you're using it, like Greg said, for inspiration, that's one thing. Just one little piece about even the podcast. It's like the biggest podcaster in the world, from what I understand, I think it's Joe Rogan, if I'm not mistaken. And if I was comparing myself to Joe Rogan, number one, I don't talk like Joe Rogan. But I can use him as inspiration. It's like I can listen to his podcast and think, oh, okay, how is he producing his podcast, or how is it getting produced? I'm sure he's not doing it like I'm doing mine. But the point is like, how is he doing it? How does he deliver it? How is he interviewing folks? How is he communicating? I can use it as inspiration to try to get better at my craft, rather than it's like, I'll never be to the level of Joe Rogan. I think I was looking up the other day, he's like got 2,200 episodes and I'm like just past 200 at this point. And I was like, 2,000 more? Are you kidding me? There's no way. My point is, if I allowed myself to have that thought, that comparison thought, I might even just shut it down. I might even just stop today. So what I will do, though, is I will find other people, use them as inspiration, people that are just a little bit further than me. I have got some goals for the podcast. I have got some goals for my finances. I have some goals for my relationships with my family. The relationship that I have here with Greg on these episodes, I have some goals with that as well. And we're just going to try to keep building upon them, stacking, positive wins. Will we have some failures in there as well? Absolutely. I fumble up with my words all the time. I lose track of what I want to say, when I want to say it, how I want to say it all the time. I tell stories about putting people in boxes and stuff, and I just lose the audience. I do that all the time too. It's just part of it, but it's a process. It's the art of becoming. And that's definitely what I want to leave you with here today as we start to bring this one in for a close. Any more final thoughts on this comparison trap? Just once again, these types of conversations are just so much fun because it allows me to bring some of the ideas that I just even have bottled up inside of me. And I am able to then share them with you, Greg, and then obviously with the listeners as well. So it's just so much fun for me. Any more thoughts for yourself?
Yeah, I would just encourage our listeners to really reflect on their own experiences with comparing and comparison, because like we're talking about, everybody kind of does it differently, and really implement the strategies that we're really talking about and really see the positive side of the comparison. I think that's one thing I really want to stress, because I think a lot of people, when they're talking about this or writing about it in books, it's a lot of negativity, which I understand you have to overcome the negativity, but there is also that inspiration and motivation side, what we're speaking about, of one level at a time. So, but yeah, really reflect on, how you view comparison and really try to shift it over to that positive side and really mitigate that negative side.
Love it. So folks, some takeaways here today. I want you to, as soon as you turn this episode off, I want you to really to think about some gratitude. Think of and express some gratitude for things that are going on in your life right now. Express some gratitude for the simplest things. It doesn't have to be anything dramatic, right? It can be the electricity's on today. It can be if you're able to go out for a walk. When this episode launches, we're almost going to be in springtime, and we might already be in springtime. I haven't looked as far as exactly when this episode's going to launch, but the weather's changing, right? Spring is coming. Be grateful for that. Birds are going to start showing back up, right? Blooms are going to start showing up on trees and on flowers, and just be grateful. Express some gratitude. Express some thanks. Express some thanks to all the great things that you've got in your life today. They might not be exactly what you want. And I get that because I'm not exactly where I want to be either. But just be grateful for what you have today. So that way you can continue to move forward into this better version of yourself, this stair step that we talked about, right? You just take one step at a time, one step at a time. And when you become grateful for what you have today, you can then continue to move forward and then become more grateful as you begin to achieve the greater things that you're looking for in your own life. So stop with the comparison, at least the negative comparison. Use it for inspiration, but don't use it as a comparison, keeping you from doing and achieving what you truly want to do and what you want to achieve out there in your own life. So, man, I think we're going to leave it there. Just let me express some gratitude to you, Greg. I just appreciate you showing up. This is so much fun. I just really love these conversations, and hopefully we're expressing and sharing as much value as we possibly can to the listeners out there. So yeah, I just appreciate you coming on as always.
Yeah, you too, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So folks, go out there, focus on being great. Leave us a review on the podcast platform of your choice. You can always find us on YouTube as well. Search for the Rich Mind Podcast, or at Randy Wilson is what it's under right now. But yeah, if you wouldn't mind leaving us a review on the podcast platform of your choice, we'd greatly appreciate that. Reach out to us at info@richmind.co. Questions, concerns, anything with this comparison trap. We'd be more than happy to try to help you with that as well. On the next episode, we're going to try to share some stories, some more of our own stories. I shared one today about putting people in boxes, which, as I say it out loud, it kind of sounds a little strange. Hopefully that will be something maybe you can kind of think through and maybe implement if you're struggling with those types of things in your life. But Greg and I want to share some more stories like that. Some of the things that we've discovered in our journey of becoming entrepreneurs, trying to go out there and achieve, become successful, trying to eliminate ourselves and keep ourselves from this comparison trap. We've got some stories that we want to share with you that hopefully you will be able to find some inspiration in them to try to help you go out there and to achieve more in your life moving forward. So we look forward to bringing that to you in the next episode. But until then, have a fantastic day, and we look forward to coming back again very soon. Until then, bye now.